Welcome. Yes, today we're going to be talking about, we're going to be providing you 8 tips for a successful consultation. And to piggyback a little bit on what Scott was saying earlier, I think we all realize that the relationship actually begins, during the consultation. And I can't put enough emphasis on how important this piece of the process is for both you as a stylist, colorist, or as your client as well. So having said that, let's jump right into it. So as Scott mentioned earlier, this is one of many webinars that will be coming down the pikes. But today, our focus is only going to be on consultations. And the hope is at the end of this webinar today, you're going to take away some tips and tricks or some knowledge that you're going to be able to apply starting tomorrow when you go back to the salon, or even today for that matter, that's going to translate into additional revenue for you and increase client retention and referrals. So why is a consultation, a successful consultation, important? Well, it'll do 3 things. It's going to drive loyalty with your clients, and I promise you it will increase your client retention, and it's going to create opportunities for you to grow revenues. And we're going to be talking quite a bit about that today. So what is a successful consultation? Let's just talk about that a little bit. It's a detailed conversation between you and your client, and it's allowing you to determine what the client wants and what the client needs. And what's the benefit of it? The benefit of it's going to be, you're going to earn that client's trust. A lot of barriers are going to come down during this process, I promise you. And it's going to provide insights into opportunities for both you as the stylist or colorist, or for your client as well. It's really important at this part of the consultation that you identify, what the objective is, and make sure that you and the client are on the same page. And again, we're going to get into that in further detail as we move forward. But again, I can't impress upon you the importance of this conversation. It's so very, very important.
Yeah, John, can I jump in just for a second
Sure.
before we move on? So I want to make clear that for me, and when I'm talking with not only my hair salon clients, but with other clients with, growing their businesses and stuff, what we really want to do is we want to add some value to them. I think in a lot of things, we're always worried about what we're charging and what we're going to get from it. At the end of the day, it's what the client is going to get from it. So adding value to their experience when they're coming to the salon, I promise you this will boost your sales and revenue in the salon, because you're building that trust and you're building that value with them, and you're engaging with them, and you're attentive to their needs. And so the consultation, to me, is getting back to the basics of what we do as hairdressers. I think we're so caught up in all the other elements and sprocket parts that go with being a salon owner and a hairstylist, that we forget that sometimes we have to get back down to the basics and just really engage and add value to that customer. So
I totally agree, Scott. And Scott, let's talk a little bit about, how do we do a consultation? I know I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure that probably some of the folks on the call today are as well. Standing behind our client and executing a consultation is really not a very effective way of doing it. It's extremely important that we sit at eye level with our clients. And the reason for that is because the client's going to feel so much more comfortable. And so will you, I promise you, as a stylist. And why we're going to do it is because it keeps the focus on you. The client can look you in the eye. It avoids distraction. And equally, show you that you're focused and committed on listening and not being distracted in the salon, because we all know how crazy it can get in the salon. So creating that little space, if you will, where it's just you and the client, and you're actually hearing what the client has to say. And the benefits of that, the clients feel respected. They actually feel like they're being heard. Clients' comfort and loyalty are enhanced. And it gives us an opportunity to talk about and to teach them about styles, products, options, and opportunities. And then the stylist can gain a deeper understanding of what the client really wants. Because as we know, especially if we're getting into a major change, if we're doing a color change or if we're doing a new haircut, that conversation is so critical to ensure that we're both on the same page. So being at that eye level, maintaining that contact, It just breaks down a lot of barriers that otherwise you have, especially like I said, if you're standing behind the chair. Scott, do you agree with me when it comes to that positioning?
Absolutely. I mean, in the salon environment, like whether or not you're in a suite or if you're in a big multi-chair salon, the environment in our salon can be a little overwhelming sometimes, so it can get a little bit, get some anxiety. You walk in, there's all these people around, the blow dryers are going, everything's, so I like to invite my client to my salon as if I'm inviting them into my home. I'm going to invite them in, offer them a beverage. I'm going to sit them down, whether or not it's in the reception area or I'm going to sit them at my chair. I want to get down on their level with them and invite them in. If they were in my home, I wouldn't stand up behind them. I wouldn't stand up, and look over their head or behind them and their back. I want to get in front of them, and create a warm, inviting environment for them so that we can discuss, their needs as what they want to do for their hair for the day. So I think it's very, very important to definitely get on their level, and again, make it as engaging and warm and inviting as possible. So,
and I'd be curious, Scott, with our attendees, if they could just show by a raise of a hand or just a quick note in the chat box, do they agree with this positioning? Do they agree that, by sitting at eye level and engaging the customer in that way, that it does break down a lot of barriers and it translates into a more positive, more successful consultation?
Yeah, Sarah Lynn, she just typed in and she's got a great point. Just be aware of their body language and asking those questions, which we're going to jump into in just a second. But thanks, Sarah Lynn, for sharing with us on that.
You're absolutely right, Sarah Lynn. That's a great point. Sometimes when a client comes in, they may be feeling overwhelmed for whatever reason, or they could be nervous because you're going to be trying something new. So that body language is very important. The other thing that's very important is actively listening and paraphrasing. And I have a feeling that a lot of us don't do that as much as we should. I know I've been guilty of it. But why do we do it? We gain a deeper appreciation of the client's motivations and their needs. Paraphrasing. So we all know what paraphrasing is. We're repeating back to the customer what they've said to us to ensure that there's no misunderstandings. And it reinforces an open and professional rapport. Because remember, folks, we are the professional and they came to us. That client came to us for a reason, especially if it's a first-time client. You're only going to get one chance to make a first impression and to really wow that client. And a lot of that's going to happen during this consultation process and the 8 steps that we're talking about today. The benefits, the clients clarify what they want using their own words. This is very important because we know that we use very different verbiage than the average person out in society today. Clients' loyalty and feelings of being understood are validated and enhanced. So again, what happens is there's this exchange of information that's critical, we all know, but it's also impressing upon the client, wait a minute, they are listening to me and they do understand. So that fear factor tends to go away and the comfort level tends to be much greater. Would you agree with that, Scott?
Absolutely. Yeah, you had a great point, talking about just, if they're first time, whether or not they were referred to you, if they were referred to you, somebody's told good things about you and they, and so, or they're just a first time client. So yeah, definitely just making sure that you're creating that warm environment with them. So, for me, I have a system of how I like to do a consultation and when I'm engaging and listening and talking to my clients. And my first thing is I'm going to listen. I'm going to ask a question basically to get the conversation going, so what brings you here with me today? And then from that point, I'm just going to start that really, important listening part. I'm going to listen, ask, listen, and then repeat what they said back to them so that they understand that I am listening to them. Because so many times I hear from clients, because I'll ask clients all the time, hey, what made you leave your last hairdresser? And the 2 answers I get is they moved away, or my last hairdresser just didn't listen to what I had to say. They just, they were distracted or they had too many things going on. They just really didn't listen and hear what I had to say with what I wanted from my hair. And so for me, I've always tried to be a very active listener with my customers. So,
and as we move forward in this presentation, Scott, we'll be identifying some techniques that will lend itself to greater success for the folks on board. So, sure. And this is one of them. So let's talk about posing open-ended questions. Yes and no answers never work. during a consultation, because in my view, it sets you up for potential disaster. So why do we pose open-ended questions? It gives the client the opportunity to express what's on their mind and explain the outcome that they really want. And the benefits, of course, fully understand the motivations. Client can express what they want using their own words. Again, this is so very, very important. The client's feeling of being heard and validated, it goes back to that trust. It enhances the trust, and it reinforces a friendly and professional relationship or rapport. Okay. So posing open-ended questions, as I said earlier, it's going to break down barriers, and it's going to eliminate potential disaster. Because as we move forward in this presentation, we're going to be talking about verbiage and just how people can maybe not explain themselves in a way that we understand, or vice versa, and it lends itself to some misunderstandings, which can translate into potential disasters when it comes to color, especially. So what are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, when I was starting out doing hair, I had one of my instructors tell me, he's like, if you ask the right questions, sometimes the client will tell you way more than you really want to know. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
So I think it's definitely asking those right questions. We have client, there's in this world, we have people that are shy, or they're a little bit timid, and then we have people that are just more of a out there kind of people. So you're gonna meet both sides of that. I think Sarah Lynn, really, this is where her point comes in, is just really understanding the verbiage. We as hairdressers speak a different language, so we really need to simplify it or dumb it down a little bit for the clients, so that they really understand that when, what we're talking about when, a client says, hey, I don't want red hair, okay, so are you telling me you really don't want red hair, or you just don't like to see warmth in the hair? So, exactly. What's the difference, so, and you have to really sometimes really nail down and break that down in there. I find using visuals helps me a lot, and definitely now where everything's online, we have Pinterest, we have things like that. So, but definitely don't want to end up a yes and no. I mean,
absolutely no.
I get some young girls in my chair sometimes. Very rarely I get young clients, but sometimes they just won't talk, so it's important to try to open them up a little bit more, make them a little bit more comfortable, and just, again, watch that body language and stuff. But, until I have a clear understanding of what's going to be done that day and I get the client's buy-in, I'm not moving on. So
that's right.
I'm going to make sure that I get those answers that I need, those questions that I need answered as I move forward. So.
Now here comes the big one, Scott, that, I know it's an area where we're all a little bit uncomfortable having this conversation with clients, but it's so very important. And that is being transparent about cost. Why is it important? It's an area of great sensitivity for clients. When a client is being cashed out, there's nothing more embarrassing or unprofessional than a surprise with the cost being more than the client anticipated. So it's so very, very important. If we're going to be doing additional service, if we're going to be doing adding additional product, if we're going to do an Olaplex, for example, we need to explain to the client the additional cost and why that cost is there. And the benefits of this is going to be, it's going to allow the client to make a fully informed decision. It's going to increase satisfaction and trust, and it's going to increase the likelihood of retaining that client. Because I'm sure if we put the question out there, Scott, to the audience, there are folks on this webinar that have probably had experiences where their client has gone up and was taken off guard by the cost attached to it. And we all know how uncomfortable that can be, and we all know that that can indeed translate into the loss of a client.
Yeah. So, it's uncomfortable. It's not the part of what we do as hairdressers. I mean, we're artists, we're creatives, but I think in today's salon industry, we have to be more entrepreneurial or business minded. And I hate to say the word, because hairdressers hate the word, but sometimes we got to be a little salesy. So, it's important that we're confident when we're talking about pricing with our customers, because if we're feeling like shy, or it's hard to kind of talk about it, we're not showing our worth, So for me, it is an uncomfortable conversation that I don't always like to have, but I've got to make sure that that my client is aware of what the cost is going to be. I start everything, even in when I'm talking to someone about marketing their business, I start, hey, what kind of budget did you have today? You know, what were you budgeting for when you came, when you visited me today? That'll allow me to kind of get a better perspective of what they're actually looking to have done, and where, or maybe where they want to be eventually, but hey, maybe it's not in their budget today. So I really always try to open communicate about the cost and the pricing of what I'm doing. You know, you don't want to wait till the end of and when you get to the reception desk, and then, hey, it's like, you know, we all have done it, you know, in the past where we shadow walk and we walk up there, we hand a ticket to the receptionist, and we're just like, okay, see ya. You know, so, you know, and then leave it to the receptionist, the poor receptionist, to go, oh my God, what was this? You know, so, you know, making sure before you even move forward with mixing a ball of color or pulling out your shears, the customer knows, and they're aware of what your pricing is. And inside of that, this is where, if you're really listening and communicating with the client, this is a great opportunity to add on in as well. And we'll talk about some of that, doing add-ons and stuff in a little bit, but it's really understanding that, hey, you know, if you're doing your job right as a hairstylist, and you're speaking confidently, that client's going to be okay with whatever you have. And if they're not, they'll openly tell you.
Absolutely. And piggybacking on that, Scott, you know, during that conversation, and we're being transparent about cost, comes, you know, we have to explain to the client how they're going to maintain that service or that color. Why are we going to do that? Because the education benefits the client. Maintenance requirements and schedule to keep looking fresh. If a client is, you know, if a client is having a full color done, and let's say they're a natural level 3 and they're going to a level 8, then we know as hairstylists and colorists that the frequency that they're going to have to come back to the salon is often. And we need to educate the client on that. And that, again, that creates opportunity for pre-booking, and we're going to talk about that as we move forward. But by the same token, it allows the client to make an informed decision, because maybe they don't want to go from a level 3 to a level 8. You know, that may be a conversation that you have during the consultation, posing those open-ended questions as it relates to cost. And the benefit, of course, the client understands what they can do and when to return to prevent fading and control new growth. It deepens and reinforces the client's trust and loyalty. And it does support incremental revenues and overall book of business, because the reality of it is, if you're making a drastic color change, for example, and we all know this, and the frequency in which that client is going to have to come back to the salon is every 3 to 4 weeks, it gives you an opportunity to pre-book. And we all know that the likelihood of a client canceling that's pre-booked is very, very slim, especially if it's a color service. So the importance of explaining the maintenance to the client, again, I can't impress strongly enough. Scott, are you getting any feedback from our friends out there?
No, you know, everybody's kind of quiet right now. If you guys, if the information we're giving you, hopefully, you know, we want to hear from you as well. And again, you know, even if you want to shoot us an email at the end of this and stuff, but we definitely want to make sure that if you have anything that works for you, please let us know. We'd love to hear more about that. But, you know, as far as the maintenance thing and how to maintain the hair and stuff, for me, it's what sets us up for as a professional. Again, it's back, you know, I use this word a lot, and value. You know, I want to be, because my prices, you know, in Atlanta are kind of on the higher side, but I want to make sure that I'm absolutely giving value to the customer. I want to make sure after I do their hair and they love it, hope they will love it. And then I want to make sure when they're leaving the salon that they know how to maintain that service, you know, that we did on them. And, you know, and that'd be products or, you know, hey, you know, with this hair color, you don't want to use hot water. You know, you don't want to use hot water on your hair. That's going to keep that color from fading. You know, so giving that information, and that's all valuable for that client, that customer. And again, we set ourselves up for future bookings. We need, you know, as we're talking to our clients, we need to be making that part of the conversation, you know, inside the consultation. You know, Jane, before doing what we're doing today, I'm going to probably want to see you back in 4 to 6 weeks, because, you know, this is a high pigment red. It's going to fade. Again, watch the hot water. I'm communicating already, setting that tone for rebookings in the future. So for me, that's the maintenance part. Describing that to a customer is very, very important for me. So again, and you're building loyalty.
And
You know,
trust,
you're
Scott. I
really,
mean, by providing this information to the client, it just reinforces the whole trust factor.
sure, loyalty, trust, and value. Those are key things that I really want my clients to feel from me, and you know, so there you go.
I also want to talk too, Scott, about the products. This is an area I think that a lot of hairstylists and colorists struggle with, and I really hope that our conversation today, this webinar, will help the folks that are participating feel a little bit more comfortable. Let's not refer to ourselves as salespeople. I know that's a word that we all dislike and it makes it uncomfortable, but we are professionals. And it's our responsibility as a professional person to recommend the product, whether it's to replicate or to maintain that service. And why? Again, it's our professional obligation, and it's going to ensure longevity of the style and the color services that we're providing to that client. And the benefit, it's going to ensure that the client gets the maximum benefit from the service. It's going to increase the client's confidence and trust in you, and it is going to translate into incremental revenues. Many times, you know, I've had clients say to me, especially clients that have come to me for the first time, and they said, you know, John, nobody ever took the time to explain to me why I needed this product. You know, now once I educate them and I explain the importance, there's never any pushback, or very, very rarely. And don't we as a professional, if we've done especially if we've done a cut where there's a lot of dimension, there's a lot of movement, don't we want the client to be able to replicate that? And the only way they can do that effectively is with the product. So again, it's a very, very important step of the consultation process, and it creates many opportunities for you as a stylist or a colorist. Scott, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah. Unlike John, I don't mind the word salesman a little bit, but I am definitely an artist first. But you know, I want to feed my family, you know, so
Yeah.
you know that, you know, and that is, to me, it's not my main objective, but the main objective again is to be professional and give my clients the products they need to maintain their hair at home. So you know, when I talk to my clients about products, it's coming from an aspect that I want them to trust me and understand that what I'm prescribing for them is gonna better their life, you know, in their hair. So for me, I look at it as a way to increase the ticket, though. For me, it's not like I'm thinking about it all the time. But at the end of the day, you know, adding a shampoo or a bottle conditioner to your ticket will definitely make an impact on your revenue. And for me, I am a hairdresser and a salon, have been a salon owner for a long time, and I looked at those things, you know. So for making sure, so with John talking, he's definitely saying, you know, give that value, give something for people that they're going to help to maintain their hair at home. For me, I want you to be successful and I want you to make some money as well. So, you know, same thing. So leaving that alone, I'm not a salesman, but you know, I think it's okay to have a little bit of the salesy to it, but really make it come from the heart, you know, from the value. You're really giving the client valuable information to help them maintain their hair. The other one, it just makes us a professional. I mean, you know, it's part of what we do. You know, we've done it for years and we'll continue to do it. Go ahead, John.
So jumping right on. So following up and keeping notes on for the clients, Scott, everything that we've just talked about as it relates to identifying what the service is going to be, whether it's a cut or a color, the products that we've recommended to that client for whatever reason, all that needs to be documented so that when that client comes back, you have the ability, if they want the exact same thing, to be able to provide that exact same service. Why do we do it? It allows us to benchmark progress. It's essential to replicating the service. It provides insight to the client's motivations and expectations, and it supports future opportunities for secret service. And we're going to talk a little bit about that towards the end, Scott. And the benefits, it ensures the ability to replicate or make adjustments if necessary. It makes for more relevant recommendations and promotional offers, and it helps build client loyalty. So imagine, if you will, a client comes in for the first time into the salon and they see you, Scott, and you do a service, whatever that service is, and they absolutely love it. But they come back to your salon, and for whatever reason, you're not available, or you're out of town, whatever, and they want the same service, but there's no file. How can anybody else replicate that? They can do guesswork. We can identify color level and underlying pigments, but we can't replicate it exactly if we don't have that information. So it's extremely important. Also during this time, again, we're going to talk about it a little later as well, any information, not just here, but from the very beginning, when you start interacting with that client, any information that you can gather, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, a wedding, anything that you can use that you can put in the file that gives you an opportunity to reach out to that client at a later date, touch base with them, acknowledging that date, or extending an invitation for them to come back to the salon and offer them a discount, if you will. That has incredible impact on a client as it relates to them feeling heard, trust, and building that relationship even stronger. And Scott, I know you do something very similar to this in your salon.
Yeah, totally. I'm a little different when it comes to follow up because I'm a little nerdy. I'm a little techie, so I do reach out, and I'll share in just a second. Kind of one of the key things. It's a big player for what I do to grow my business and keep my clients coming back. But for the most part, I mean, we all, a lot of us now are using software to keep track of our either our accounting or our formulas and things like that. Take it with notes and stuff. I would say, as you're communicating with your client, have a little pen and paper there, write down, some of the key points that you and your clients are going over, save it for the end of the day. You can enter it into the software so you have that, or go old school, get an index box with some cards and keep it nearby and have it so that you can really understand. And I'll tell you, one of the key reasons I like to definitely take notes is because at the end of the day, I want to have something to communicate with them when they come back as well and touch base with. And so with that said, one of the things I do that I feel like is a big impact on my business and is at the end of the day, after I've done all my clients' hair, I clean up my station, I make sure all my products are put away, everything. I sit down on my laptop and I send out an email, because when somebody books with me, I'd say about 85% of my bookings come from online booking, which is, I don't know if any of you guys do online booking, or is it all, they call you on the phone? Please leave it in the chat for me. I'd love to get feedback on that. But about 85% of the people that book with me book online. So I'm collecting their email addresses, which is pretty powerful for my business. And so what I do is typically I'll sit down at the end of the day and I'll look at my book and see who I did, and I'll go into my software and I'll write up an email to each one of them individually. And for me, so this is all coming because I remember I took notes in the consultation, and when we were talking, I have the information to share with them. So one of the key things I do is I'm going to thank them for visiting me. Listen, Susan, I really appreciate you coming in today. It was so amazing to see you. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring something up inside the email that we talked about. So,
Scott, Scott, if I could jump in, I'd like to ask the participants if they have any suggestions on how they're collecting information on their clients and how they're storing it as well.
Yeah, totally. I want to hear that as well. So for me, I'll keep it really short here. So basically, I'm interacting with the customer, and I'm asking some key questions inside the email. So the other one is the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for referrals. You can personalize the email however you want to do it, but the main thing is, like, you want to thank them. You want to mention something that you talked about inside of your conversation on a personal level. The next is you want to ask for referrals. And then the fourth thing is I want to ask for a review. I'm going to pop a link to my Google reviews inside the email. And I'm going to say, Susan, it'd be really amazing if you could go give me a review on Google. It really helps me grow my business and meet new people, awesome people like you. So, I want to ask for that review. And then the last thing I want to do is, if they haven't already done it when they're in the salon, I'm going to put a link to the rebooking and remind them, hey, the holidays are coming up, Susan. I'm really going to be busy. I really think it's important that we go ahead and get you on the books. Here's the link to my booking. Go ahead and book your next appointment. And also, while you're at it, maybe book a blowout for New Year's. So I'm really touching base at the end of the day with each one of my customers. When I send out the email, I'm still so fresh in that customer's mind, and they're still like so giddy over their hair, they're more than likely going to do at least 2 out of those things that I've asked them to do inside the email. And it really, really works.
Those are all great tips, Scott, but you know, equally important is to make sure that everything is being documented. So let's talk about go ahead and ask. This is very interesting because we all know as stylists and colorists that we're constantly trying to market ourselves outside the salon. And I'm not really sure why we do that as much as we do, when if we just used our existing clients, we could build a much, much greater book of business. So why would we ask, or why should we ask? Because it's going to help us to build our book of business. And I promise you folks, I'm sure that you already know this, the best clients that we can have are our regulars and referrals. And the benefits to that, it creates opportunity for the client to go out and brag about their hair. You know, I'm sure that all of you have experienced this. I know I have. Whenever I can do a color change or a style change on a client, they can't wait to go out, especially if they're going to an event and they love to boast about it. Well, hey, you know what? What greater mode of communication than having that client provide your business cards to their friends and family, and you get those as referrals. You're not spending any money. All you're doing is leveraging the relationship you have with that client already and showcasing the incredible work that you've done. It helps to build your book of business. Like, I don't know about y'all, but for me, when I went to the salon on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, I used to feel so satisfied to see my book filled from through to Saturday. And if I saw a day that my business was slow, I would do everything I could to fill those slots by reaching out to clients that I had, especially if it was a client that I hadn't seen in a bit of time. So don't be afraid, you know, reach out, ask your clients for those referrals. And I promise you, if you do, and you get into the practice of doing it, you can increase your business significantly. So your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, first, before I get into that, I just want to point out that the Canadian boy, John, just said y'all. He said y'all. He lived in Atlanta for a while, so he picked up some of our slang down here.
I did. I picked up some of that Southern influence, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely, you know, I mean, you can do this in many ways. You can get it for the ask, and you know, in many ways. And first, inside the consultation, making sure that, you know, we're offering and asking for those referrals and things like that. And then again, you know, after they leave, I'm a big emailer. I love to send out emails. I want to stay connected with my customers when they're not, even when they're not in the salon through. I want them to think about me. So I'm always looking. I talk to hairstylists and other business owners. You really want to always have about 20% of new traffic coming to your salon every month. And you may say, hey, I'm already busy. I don't have enough clients and stuff like that. But you know what I like to do is talk about, like, how are you going to raise your prices? How are you going to level up, you know, and having new customers coming in and building a new book. Not to say that we don't love our older customers, our 80% of the customers that have been loyal to us, but we want to always be leveling up. So I think it's okay to ask your customers for things that are going to help grow your business. And because again, you're giving them value. And before I ask from anything from my customer, I am giving them a ton of value, you know, inside of that. So before I ask for something, I want to make sure that I'm giving them something. So
Scott, something that I'd like to kind of drill down into, and then I'd like to open the floor to questions and answers. I know a lot of the things we spoke about today sounds commonsensical, but it's not being applied, and we all know that. And if you just step back and think about the potential opportunity that you have as it relates to additional revenues through retail sales by just recommending those products to your clients. And then just think for a minute. Let's just say for the next week, you spoke to, let's say, 5 of your clients and asked them for a referral. And as a result of doing that, you got 3 new clients next week that translated into a ticket of, let's say, between $250 and $350. Think of how that's going to affect your gross revenue over a year. I know that we're not conditioned to think that way. We're not business people for the most part, but I promise you folks, if you develop that mindset and start applying these skills that we've talked about today, you will definitely see an increase in your business and in your retail sales. So Scott, what I'd like to do is to, if there's anybody in the audience that has any questions pertaining to anything that's salon related, it can be based on consultations for sure, but if there's anything else that is of concern to them or they would like an answer to, I would welcome those questions.
Yeah, I mean, they can type them into the question and answer or in the chat. But for me, again, my final notes on this thing too is that, you know, we chose the consultation element as our first webinar because to me, it's one of the key factors of success as a hairstylist. And, you know, and we want to make sure that we're delivering the information to our customers on a regular on a consistent basis. And we know the more times we do something, the better we get at it. And I'm hoping that with this webinar, it will be the same thing. But, you know, for me, it's really building a relationship with my customer. It's the first impression. It's the first time I'm sitting down with them. I'm building that trust and with them, and I'm building that relationship, that long-term relationship with them. I've got clients that I've been doing for over 25 years that still come to me. And I've lived in Atlanta most of that, but I moved away to New York, and I had clients fly to New York to come see me because I had that relationship with them. So, so it is very, very important. At the end of this too, is like, we want you to gain value from it as well as hairstylists and salon owners so that you can grow your revenue in your business as well. Again, yeah, please, you know, anything that's working for you, any tips that we didn't share that might be work for you inside of your consultations, some questions that you ask your customers, you know, maybe just successes, something that you have that you might feel that would be valuable to us.
The other thing too, Scott, I would like to encourage the folks on the webinar today, if they have any questions at all pertaining to today's webinar, because we will be sending it out to everybody once they respond by email, making the request, please email me. I have the slide up now. Again, it's going to be emailed out to you, but it's john.doucette@mainreviews.com, because Main Reviews is, it's our commitment to help salon owners and stylists and colorists and new folks into the industry to become as successful as possible. And as Scott and I mentioned earlier out of the gate, this is the first webinar that we're offering, and it's one of many that are coming down the pikes that I can assure you that it's going to provide you with some great information that will help you to continue to grow your book of business.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of HairSalonPro.com, which is an online community for hairdresser, salon owners, and cosmetology students. And I started it because I had a lot of questions from people on how to grow their business, how to online marketing, you know, and how to grow their book inside the salon as well. And so just watching forums on Facebook and stuff, I found a need to start this. And I connected with John and Main Reviews. Like, they have the same kind of story going, and we really have enjoyed working together and getting to make our friendships and get things together. But you can find me at Scott@HairSalonPro.com and also at HairSalonPro.com. And then over at Facebook /HairSalonProUSA, Instagram as well. So would love to have you guys follow me over there where I share information on marketing and also growing your business inside the salon. So, and again, at the end of this, I'm going to send out an email to you guys. I've got a free download that I'm going to give you on growing and skyrocketing your sales inside of your salon or any kind of business. Really, it really is effective for all kinds of businesses, and I'll send that out to everyone today at the end of the webinar. So, anything else, John?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything. We've had no questions posed from the audience.
Yeah, Melissa just sent her email. If you guys want to pop your email into the I'll send it directly to you. I don't want to just blast out all my friends, but if you want to pop your email inside the chat box, I'll send you it directly after this webinar. And I'd love some feedback on it. You know, if you feel like it's if you feel like it's something that I can help you with, if you have questions on Facebook marketing, web design, anything that deals with online growing your business, that's what I do. I work with lots of salon owners on that kind of stuff as well. So, John,
okay.
You want to talk about Main Reviews for a second?
I do. You know, Main Reviews, as I said earlier, you know, our commitment is to salon owners and stylists and colorists and new folks into the industry to help them to be as successful as possible. I didn't speak a lot out of the gate about my background, but like Scott, I have 30+ years in the industry. as an educator, a multiple salon owner, a franchisor. I've worn many hats. I've been very privileged in this industry. And with my partner and I, you know, we worked very hard at creating solutions for the problems that exist out in the salon world. And that's the whole thing behind Main Reviews. So for those of you that are on this webinar today, if you take the time to go to mainreviews.com and check out our site, you'll see that there's a lot of great information there, and you'll get to see who the players are behind the scenes, one of which is myself. And hopefully, as we continue to grow and move forward, we'll have an ongoing relationship with you all.
All right, guys. So again, you know, we look forward to the next webinar, and thanks, John, for your doing this with us. And we're teaming up and being my friend and all that.
Thank you so much, Scott. I enjoy working with you, and I look forward to our future webinars. And thank everybody that's on board today. I hope you're taking something away from this that you can apply starting today or tomorrow that will help you to increase your business. So for now, have a great day, and don't forget, check out the site mainreviews.com.